Members of the media, thank you for joining us here this afternoon for an update on the investigation into the Chavelle Dillon-Burgess matter. Speaking this afternoon is going to be the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Stephen Corbishley, and then he'll be joined by the investigators, Detective Sergeant Jason Smith and Chief Inspector Mr. Arthur Glassford.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. We have an announcement in regards to significant progress that's taking place currently in relation to the search for Chavelle Dillon-Burgess. But it was not the news that I would want to announce to the media, because our focus throughout this investigation has been to find Chavelle safe and well and bring her back to her family. Sadly though, the investigation has indicated that the high likelihood that Chavelle has come to the most gravest of harm. And last night we took the decision to arrest the male on suspicion of her murder. We have spoken with the family. We have a family liaison officer working with them each and every day. And one could only imagine the upset, the distress that they're facing this afternoon, and my thoughts with them. Detective Sergeant Smith and DCI Glassford will give you an update in regards to how the investigation is now going to progress. But let me be clear, we are still searching for Chavelle. The person in custody, we believe, has knowledge of that, and that's why we've taken that step. I'm extremely appreciative to the information that's been provided by our community, because we have all worked together to try and find out what's taking place. And beyond the family, I know that there will be many, many people that are extremely upset to this news and announcement today. But the investigation is still at an early stage and we need to establish facts. We shouldn't be drawing conclusions. But I spoke this morning with the Minister for National Security, Mr. Wayne Keynes, and both of us, and we have had very good support from Mr. Keynes, and he has been extremely concerned about this matter. But we both agree there are things that we need to look at beyond just this investigation. And whilst it's too early to talk about it at this stage, I'm referring to aspects of domestic abuse and how we work collectively across partners and as a community to deal with such matters, and to make sure that people that are vulnerable, people that are at risk of domestic abuse, have opportunities to get help and to protect them, because some of those victims often don't realise the danger they're in. But that's a matter for the future. Where we are now is in the midst of an investigation to find Chavelle, and obviously, as I've expressed, there is sadness about what we believe has happened to her. So I'm going to introduce Sergeant Smith and Detective Sergeant Smith and DCI Glassford, and they'll cover the specifics, and then we can take some questions.
It is with a heavy heart that the Bermuda Police Service declares that the disappearance of Mrs. Chavelle Dillon-Burgess is being treated as a suspected case of murder. Overnight, detectives took a 39-year-old man into custody on suspicion of murdering Chavelle. The public will know that since she was reported missing, we have been searching for and investigating the circumstances of her disappearance. We do remain committed to finding Chavelle, and we urge the public to look for anything suspicious while out on their daily movements. Our search for her continues in a methodical manner, and we will continue looking for her. We know that the news of an arrest in this case will cause anxiety and stress, especially to Chavelle's family and her friends. Our family liaison officers are working with her family to provide any and all support during this very difficult time. We also are working with forensic specialists and partner agencies to find justice in this matter, both in Bermuda and outside. The Serious Crime Unit continues to ask the public for your support with information on what happened to her. And if you have any information, we are continuing to ask you to contact us on myself at 441-717-0864, or you can contact the Anonymous Crime Stoppers on 800-8477, or police contact number 211. We are appreciative for all the help given to us and the family of Ms. Burgess in trying to find her, and we ask you to please do not give up on your efforts. Thank you. Any questions you have?
Can I just make one point? The Crime Stoppers hotline is not run in Bermuda, it's run from overseas. And often people are worried about contacting, giving information. I urge, if anybody has got any information and they're worried about disclosing it directly to the police, use Crime Stoppers, because it is a good way of doing it anonymously and the information will still get through to us.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Commissioner Corbishley, maybe to begin with, just to quote something you said there is sadness about what we believe has happened to her with regards to Chavelle. What do police believe has happened here?
Well, one of the things that obviously we will do is try to establish the facts around what has happened to Chavelle. Without going into the full specifics, but there are obvious things that we do each and every day. Repeated behaviour, we go and see family, we go and see our children, we have telephones, and all that indicates that on a particular date in April, Chavelle stopped doing that. And obviously there's been extensive searches, and I'm ever appreciative to the community that have helped us do that, and she literally cannot be found. So one has to take a position that firstly harm has come to her, and we've been clear about that, but the most gravest harm is what we believe has taken place. One of the things that Detective Sergeant Smith raised, and it's a point to note, because often people will say, well, you need to find a person to investigate any matters of murder. Well, that is not the case, and indeed we're receiving excellent support from police forces overseas that have investigated such matters where the victim has not been located, but somebody has still been accountable for their murder.
You mentioned extensive searches. Certainly, we know that police have been involved, regiments have been involved. I wanted to ask, I've become aware of police at Warwick Pond this week. Can you confirm if police in fact were there this week, and if that is connected to this investigation?
I think, and Paul, you expect me to say this, we won't disclose some of our activity, but what I do want to reassure is on land and water, we've got the capability to do those searches. And we have, alongside our colleagues in the regiment, have dive capability, and there's an extensive activity. Warwick Pond's been raised. I mean, it is on our radar and work is being done, but people should draw a conclusion to that fact.
You mentioned that somewhere down the line there's going to have to be conversations around domestic violence in this country. Can you talk about, to what extent you can, how that relates to this investigation?
Well, if I cover it in two parts, the role of the Bermuda Police Service is our absolute role is to protect people's lives, but also our role is to protect those that are vulnerable. And we have committed greatly and invested heavily in regards to how we look after vulnerable persons, particularly those that suffer with domestic abuse. And indeed, DCI Glasgow here is the lead of that department. The reason why I mentioned domestic abuse is that, and without again going to the specifics of the investigation, there is concern around how domestic abuse is looked at. And that's not a criticism of the police or any other partner, because domestic abuse is about all of us. Domestic abuse is everybody's business. And it concerns me sometimes that perhaps we're not as assertive or direct in addressing the way in which some relationships take place and about protecting people and saying to victims that you can contact us, there is a place of safety and we can help you. And I think it's an important opportunity whilst we've got to investigate this matter. Sometimes when events such as this take place, it's an opportunity to learn more than it's an opportunity to blame.
Just to confirm, if I could, you said a 39-year-old suspect has been taken into custody on suspicion of murder, did you say?
Yes.
Are you able to talk about what, if any, connection the suspect and Ms. Dillon-Burgess have?
No.
Commissioner, you've stated an arrest has been made. Do you think charges will be brought forward?
Chavelle, we're working very closely, and this is about how the police service do work. We've engaged with the DPP, Deputy DPP, and the guys behind me have had extensive conversations. I've mentioned before that there are cases in other parts of the world, particularly in the United Kingdom, where such investigations have taken place. But to judge that charges are forthcoming is too early. We've taken the announcement because people will find out, but we're at a stage now where we're investigating a male that we believe and suspect has got some involvement with Chavelle.
Can you confirm or deny her credit cards have been used since she's been missing?
I'm not going to get into that, Chavelle.
You were talking about that you can move forward without a body being found. There have been a few rumours going around, particularly one today about a body found near Port Royal. Can you confirm or deny if any body has been found in this period?
I mean, firstly, as I stand in this conference, we are not aware of any finding that relates to Chavelle. Your other point is that investigations are well established and prosecutions and convictions in regards to such matters.
You said a particular date in April. Can you confirm, is that date when it appears all contacts from
Well, one of the things I
April,
mentioned the other
April
day, which was not in defence of the VPS, but it was to address some comments on social media about the time it's taken. We believe Chavelle went missing in the early part of April, but the report to us to investigate didn't come till the 30th of April. So there is a significant period where the VPS were aware of what she was doing, what had happened to her.
Was that April 11th up to the 30th, or was it different dates? That 2.5 weeks? Or
It's in that period.
Hi. With this announcement that you have arrested someone on suspicion of murder, can you reveal anything more to us about that 2-week period?
No. And the reason for it is simply we're at an investigative stage. Suspicion is a position where one has to assume a person has knowledge or involvement. But you've got to establish facts around that. And one of the things that I'm keen on, and it's a point I'm going to make, there are some people in the community that I think know what has happened. Maybe not directly, but they certainly know more than the police know. And I would also take a guess that some people have previously been scared in coming forward. And what I want to do by showing that the police have taken this seriously, we're taking action, is for people to have confidence to come and speak to Mr. Glassford, Mr. Smith, and tell us what you know. And I'm not asking on behalf of the BPS, I'm asking on behalf of Chavelle's family.
Are you going to have assistance from overseas to any agencies overseas to help to bring highlight on this case?
To answer your question, Trevor, policing is an international business, okay? And it would be very naive to take a position in the BPS where we know best. We've got the capability, we've got exceptional investigation teams, got exceptional things that we can do. But advice and support is really important. So to answer your question, yes, we are speaking to overseas police forces, particularly those that have experience in such investigations.
One more statement, actually a statement I would employ you to announce, to put to bed the rumor mill out there in the public. Unless the information comes from your office, can you implore the general public to cease on the rumor mills?
Yeah, and again I mentioned this on sort of vlogs I've been doing social media. The other day I mentioned about saying that Chavelle had died. Some might say, well, it's ironic because, you know, but it doesn't help when, what's the word, conjecture is raised, because before you know it, 10, 100,000 people know, and that then becomes a fact. If people have a view, rather than put it on social media, contact the police.
Can I ask one follow-up, Commissioner? You talked about, to some extent, evidence in terms of a lack of evidence, a lack of cell phone activity, a lack of contact with family members, friends, that kind of thing. Can you talk about what, if any, evidence, positive evidence, has been collected?
Well, Paul, one of the things I'll say to you, and you can find some of this out if you do your own research, it's not a lack of evidence, it's still evidence. If you don't turn up to work, that's evidence. Mm-hmm. If you don't use your phone, again. So it's important to say that the inquiry we're doing is not necessarily proving particular issues, it's about proving things that haven't happened that would normally be expected with a person. And that's a lot of the inquiries that we're undertaking and why the announcement we've made today.
One last question. I understand that Chavelle World was a subject of being missing at one point. Did your office was concerned with the welfare for this individual?
What, in regards to that individual?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into specifics around people. There's certain things in the investigation we keep to ourselves, and I won't be able to answer that question. Just one point I do want to cover, and it was something that Ms. Moreno handed to me, and it goes back to the domestic abuse issue, and I've said this before. We still have curfew, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Let me be absolutely clear. If somebody is at risk of domestic abuse, they feel scared for their safety, you will not be arrested if you leave your house during curfew. Go to somebody that can look after you, a neighbour. If you can't, phone 911 and we'll be there straight away. Okay? It's about your protection. And if you find yourself in a situation and it's safe to leave, or you just have to leave, leave. Don't care if it's 4 a.m, don't care if it's 4 p.m. We will there to protect people.
Can I have one last question on you mentioning forensic, the contact with forensics overseas, here obviously. The lockdown, the restriction of flights, would, in a situation like this, would you normally have flown in someone, or is it possible to fly someone in?
Because how you use Zoom now, and how used to it, and what you can do.
Even in something so intricate as this?
It's not necessarily around forensic. I mean, we're dealing with an investigation, and the facts are as we're currently describing, so it's entirely logical to speak to other police forces that dealt with similar issues. And video conferencing is a valuable way to do that, but there's no necessity to bring people to Bermuda, irrespective of the fact that it's difficult, if not impossible, to do so at this time.
Are you?
The BPS is a highly capable police service, but it's a police service that thinks beyond Bermuda. It looks at what support we can get, and it's one of the reasons why we make so much progress, and it's right to engage with other partner agencies from around the world.
Are you able to tell us which agencies they are, whether the UK or the US? Is it both?
It's probably inappropriate because but if you do research, you can find these cases and the particular forces that have undertaken such inquiries, and successfully. But my point is, in finishing, we are still at an early stage. This is a significant part of the investigation, but there is much work to be done. And whilst I've spoken far too much in front of the investigators, and they are the ones doing the work, and my role is to support them, there is a long journey ahead before we get to the bottom. And I'll end with what I've said. Our job is still to find Chavelle, no matter what situation that is.
Thank you.
Thank you much.